Thank you.
I think that part of the problem we've had in the modern world, in the West in particular, is that we have lost our initiation rites. And therefore we've lost our maps. And so we began with psychedelics and other means to initiate ourselves. But we had no maps, no teachers. And I think, though, that many of us who were at that time, who were young at that time and experienced all of that, are now coming into the fullness of who we are. And we need to become the teachers for the young people. I think that we've all searched for those maps, and that we found them in many of the ancient traditions. And it's time for those of us, especially the ones from the 60s, who really had that great desire to be at one with the earth, to understand the larger mystery. I think that we're at the age now where it's time for us to take leadership in the world and bring everything back into balance. There's one other thing I want to tell you you'll find really interesting. In the tantric tradition,
No, go ahead.
in the tantric tradition, the female is represented by the sun, and the male is represented by the moon. And it's because the female represents actually the Shakti, the power of the male, the power of everything. And through that power, and that power is the power of truth, virtue, and integrity, which is really the basic, since the mother is the first teacher, she holds a spiritual foundation. So that power is that spiritual power. And the male is represented by the moon, who is nurtured and in a certain sense, becomes the child of that power. It is her who lifts him up and empowers him and teaches him. I think it's also because it's a tradition that comes from way, as we look at it from the perspective of the yugas, the 4 ages. And I think, and in the midst of the 4 ages, when it goes from the Silver Age to the Bronze Age, it shifts from a feminine perspective to a masculine perspective. And since that tradition goes way back to the primordial source itself, I think that's why it has those different symbols, that the feminine was seen as that power, as the creative force. And then as we went into the patriarchal times, the whole symbology shifted.
We're looking at the feminine also in the presence of return of the feminine to politics, to corporations, to, the corporation is the only system in creation, the only being in all of creation that the more predatory, that the more polluting, and the less ecological it is, the more profitable it is. Every other being in creation, the more ecological, the more profitable you are. The more you share, the more you have. In the West, we believe that being rich means hoarding a lot, having a lot of money or things that you don't share with others. In indigenous cultures, the wealthier you are, the more you share. In fact, your wealth is determined by how much you give away, not by how much you hoard or keep back. So these redefinitions that are so important today it's what the resurgence of the feminine is about in education. It's not how many facts you remember, but how ready are you to be awed by creation and learn from the earth and learn directly. Mathematics is all around you, geometry. See, language you're taught by hearing stories, not by reading books only. So if we are to birth a new time and a new society, we all have to become the midwives, the men and the women.
Yes. Yes. Very important.
And the time is so now.
Well, I was gonna say, well, for me, I think, in birthing the feminine and bringing her forward, it really comes down to one word, and that's connections. But I think we've lost that web of connecting. And to me, that's very present in the feminine. Somebody told me a story not so long ago, and I laughed at it a lot, because they said the difference between males and females, and again, I don't want to distinguish like males do this and females do that, because females do it also, but in this case I'll say males and females, that if you have this drawer where you keep all your knives and your forks and everything, so if a male is putting the forks and the knives and everything, they put them into little compartments, very, very neat. And in the females, what we do is that we just throw our stuff in there, it's all connected all over the place. So for me, that's a very perfect metaphor of where we really are in terms of the male and female, and also the energetic parts of us, because our male can be very rigid, very compartmentalized. So I feel we need to really get a little bit more chaotic and shake things up, and then we need to reconnect, find the form to come back together again. But I also wanted to talk a little bit about, just mentioned in terms of traditions and rituals. For me, this is very important, and it's work that I'm really doing in Mexico right now, in terms of how do we preserve, how do we keep our traditions alive as the world is getting bigger. A lot of the back doors to our lands are being opened, that we're being invaded, by very foreign type of objects and people. And when I meet people, I kind of try to tell them our traditions, our rituals, our ceremonies are not just fiestas that happen one time. Really, they're steps to our lives, to how we experience our lives. And also that for us, like ceremonies or rituals, that's just kind of like a fire that's going at one time, and the work actually starts when the ceremony ends. And again, I look at young people, and I feel as the world is more in their face, television, technology, they're losing the interest in these old traditions. In my country, a lot of the young people don't even want to put on the traditional outfit. They prefer the jeans. We're having a lot of problems in Mexico with the young girls and these pop stars that are from this country. The young girls, want to dress in the mini skirts, show off their little bellies. So we're in I want to be very honest. We're in a very, very challenging place in my world. Very challenging that we, the grandmothers, at times scratch our heads and we say, we don't know where we're going with this.